Alright, hey everyone. It's dead late at night. It's actually 1:30 in the morning, so definitely burning the midnight oil, but I wanted to make this video to go over some of the money mistakes I made back when I was a student at university. Now, I've learned from those mistakes, and it would have been much more helpful if I'd had the wherewithal back then to know not to make those mistakes. People only tend to really learn a lesson, especially regarding money, when they lose it. So this is my way of breaking down some of the money mistakes that I made. Hopefully you can learn something from them and not make some of these mistakes yourself. Without any further ado, let's get straight into it. Mistake number one, spending too much on the wrong things. Now, admittedly, when I went to university, towards the latter end of my university years, COVID did come into play, and I did start spending money, especially on things like Uber Eats, Deliveroo, Just Eat. And when I go back and look at my account, that's a whole lot of money that's just going to food, fast food, more often than not, that really could have been put to better use. If I total up the money I spent on fast food during that period, it's obscene, and I'd much rather have that money in my investment account in the S&P. So that's mistake number one, spending money on things that I didn't need at all. Aside from ordering from outside, there's also the side of things where I started splurging money on laptops, iPads, monitors, a better phone, better peripherals, mice, keyboards. I bought a mechanical keyboard, which for the purpose of university, which was to go in there, learn, and come out with a degree, most of those things weren't necessary. I just needed one screen, I needed a laptop, and that's about it. I could have got by with a lot of the things that I'd had before, the basic things that I'd had before. But when I got to university, I really started to spend a lot of money which I shouldn't have been spending. I didn't have the budget to be spending money on those kind of things. I bought a 32-inch screen monitor. I bought a monitor stand. I bought a new desk. I bought a chair. And what I did was spend too much on those things. Those things I guess those things are fine to buy, especially because I use them a lot. But I spent a lot of money on those things. Definitely more than I likely should have. I should have maintained a better track of my finances, and that would have helped me save a lot more towards the end. Now, I've made another video about how I made $36,000 as a student at university. I'll link that video up here. But most of that money was spent. And had I saved it, or even better, invested it, that would have made my life now and in the future so much better. Point number two, this is going to be an interesting one, and it particularly applies to me, and it's that I didn't continue tutoring younger students after A-levels. Now, the summer after I had completed my A-levels, I started tutoring students for A-level and GCSE, mainly in mathematics. That job was fairly easy. As the transition began into COVID and lockdown, everything started going online. The teaching started moving online. And had I kept up that tutoring during university, during the beginning stages of university, then that would have been a really great side hustle to have. In retrospect, that would have been a really great side hustle to have. I'm not going to say it was easy, but it wasn't physical. I didn't have to go anywhere and do anything physical. I would have had to sit there and teach students stuff I already knew. That would give me a refresher as well. And for an undergraduate student or even a postgraduate student, tutoring is such an effective and efficient way of spending your time. Not only spending your time, but such an efficient side hustle. You're literally teaching students what you just learned or you're learning now. If I'd continued tutoring A-level students in mathematics and GCSE students in mathematics, that would have been a really great side hustle. It would have been a much more efficient side hustle than what I initially did, which was go and find a part-time job at a suit store. Another thing with tutoring is that it lines up perfectly with schedules at university. Your day at university tends to end and begin more or less around about the same time as A-level student and GCSE students' school days do. So you'd either get blocks of teaching on the weekend or maybe an hour or so after university on a weekday. So it ticked all the boxes. When I look back, I don't understand why I stopped, because it actually paid well, far better than I was getting at my part-time job. You could argue perhaps the experience of tutoring isn't as transferable as perhaps dealing with clients at my part-time job at the suit store, but still, in the position I was in, that would have been a much more efficient expenditure of my time. And I count that as a money mistake because I not only would have made more money, I wouldn't have had to commute back and forth from a store But also, that would have made more money. I don't know why I didn't continue. That's odd. Mistake number 3 that I made was comparing myself to other students financially. Now, I don't know how many of you are in university, but a lot of the students are international students. At least in my university, they were. There were a lot of international students. And they would come in with the whole hog, the latest iPhone, the latest MacBook. They'd have designer on designer, right? Some of them would even get dropped off in private taxis by chauffeurs. You're kind of in the same room as those people, but it does feel like there's perhaps a slight division. I'm not going to say hierarchy because I don't think that was the case. I don't think I was either above or below anyone in that regard. And that comparison, at least financially, between you and other students is, I found to be unhelpful. It wasn't productive. And so that's another money-related mistake I made. Some of them were paying around £4,000 a week just for accommodation. And also, at the time, it looked like perhaps they were having more fun because of their financial situation, because they had the money to splurge. But in retrospect, I think that not having that financial backing or that level of financial backing forces you to be more creative. It almost pushes you up against a wall and forces you to think of creative ways to keep yourself going. And like I said, that comparison between students of different socioeconomic backgrounds, I found to be largely unhelpful. It didn't do anything productive. All right, finally, money mistake number 4 I made at university. This one's an interesting one, is that I bought an iPad and I bought a touchscreen laptop. Do not do either of those things. I bought the latest, I think it was the M1 iPad, and I've made a video about why it was the most useless purchase I've ever made. I think I'll link that up here or down in the description as well. The most pointless purchase I've ever made in my entire life. And I bought a touchscreen laptop, and I don't know why. When I look back, I'm not entirely sure why I paid extra to have a feature that I seldom used, that not only cost more on the outset, but also drained the battery quicker. So in terms of functionality for a student, that also made things worse. I've also made a video about actually budget laptops for students. I'll link that somewhere up here and down in the description below as well. Don't buy I think I say the same thing in that video. Don't buy a touchscreen laptop. However much you might think you're going to have OneNote or you're doing an engineering degree and you're going to draw designs, you're going to hand draw designs, or you're going to use OneNote to take notes, it's not worth it. If you have an old iPad lying around, go for it. Download OneNote, digitize all your notes. That's great. But the fact that I had an old iPad lying around at home, I had a perfectly good laptop at home, and I still went out and bought a brand new laptop, a touchscreen laptop, along with the brand new, newly released M1 iPad, that makes zero fiscal sense. I'm kind of cringing just thinking about it now. There's no application where you need not only a Windows laptop touchscreen and an iOS or iPadOS iPad as well. Configurability between the two is damn near non-existent. I needed dongles. I was carrying around dongles for the iPad because it only had a USB-C port. I was carrying around an extra thing to plug in so I could plug in different what a nightmare. Don't do it. It makes no sense. I ended up selling the iPad. The laptop, okay, fine, I gave it to my sister because she needed it, but the iPad I ended up selling, and I say the same thing in the video. Made no sense. All right, that's about it for this video. That's all I wanted to say. I just wanted to go through some of the money mistakes I made at university. Hopefully prevent you from making the same. Hopefully you can avoid making some of the same mistakes. If this video was useful, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Let me know down in the comments what other types of content you'd like to see. That's all for this video. Thanks for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one.